Good morning, everybody. It's Ryan with Propelio. Today's Going Vertical. We're going to be talking about what to do next, the building's process, or not the process, but getting prepared. The first week we talked about lot acquisition. Last week we talked about to be a GC or to hire a GC. We talked about the building package or the builder's package that you turn into the city. This week we're going to talk about getting prepared, unlike the past 45 seconds. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Lifeonaire.
It was my fault.
Hey, and we're back. So, like I was saying in the intro, last week we talked about to be a GC, to hire a GC, or be a GC. We talked about a little bit about the differences of those two. We also talked about the builder's package, like what you're presenting to the city. But now we're going to be talking about being overall prepared, the builder being prepared to build. So what does that mean to you guys?
Well, first of all, for me, I usually always have the lots already when I'm preparing to get that to start, right? So I'm looking to make sure I have all my designs, everything that we talked about for the builder's packet, my design, my engineer in place. Right now, that's actually the stage that I'm at right now with my 20 unit development. So in the stage that I'm in right now is working with the engineer and making sure that we have all the plats ready. This is a little bit bigger development, so there's a lot more to go into it. So I make sure I have the insurance that I need. Make sure that I get my bids. So we're going to be talking a lot more about that today on bids and estimating what our cost is going to be as far as the construction. So.
And for you, Mr. Fast?
I think being prepared has a lot of different possible connotations, but I think today we can talk about actionable steps that we can give the audience in what we consider being prepared. But for me, I think being prepared would be, like we talked about last week, knowing your numbers, having your packet filled out. But then again, it's having design plans that are ready, because you have to have those for last week's episode, getting your builder packet done, but you may have to change them. Being prepared, having your numbers all laid out, having your financing laid out, or at least knowing where you're going to get all these things, having different engineers on standby in case one doesn't give you the answer you like. So it's right on the heels of last week's episode, but being prepared to actually go ahead in the event your builder's packet is approved.
Right.
So that's the show.
Thank you for joining.
No, but I mean, so what? Okay, so being prepared is just having your numbers right. Maybe you have a thing there, but then what? I mean, what does that mean? I know we were talking about actionable steps, but
so we can go two avenues with this. I think she can take one approach, I can take another, and being prepared can go all the way back to the beginning, and we can touch on that if we want to, but not to spend too much time. There's going to be people watching this show that already have lots, like she has, ready to go, like I have most times, but a lot of people watching may be really interested in doing what we're talking about, but they don't know where to start. So being prepared is a combination of all the previous episodes up till now, and that can mean, do you have a lot? Well, no, but I want to buy one. Okay, well, let's get prepared for that, because everything still ties into one another. And
Right.
That could mean maybe you need to go and have a plan set designed. Go do that, by the way. This is a step. Go pick something that's within your realm of understanding, a small 3-2 under whatever square feet you think is appropriate for the area you're going to target right now. Go get that. Then go figure out the cost to build that. Send that out for bids. Send it out to GCs, subs, flipping subs. Just go spend it out to everybody. Get your pricing back. Get prepared. She could probably talk about taking that a slightly different direction.
And that's actually a great point, because you will have to spend money on getting that design. You have to spend money on it. A lot of people don't think about the cost of just that design, and it could be, depending on what you're building, it could be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, maybe more. Right now, my design, right, just the plan is going to cost me over almost $7,500 because it's a development, right? So that's a cost that you will have to incur, that you will incur without even knowing the bid. So,
but from somebody who has
in some circumstances.
But for somebody who has no experience in this on any level, like that sounds way more attainable, because when I think architecture, I think designs, I'm thinking it's $20,000, $30,000.
No.
I just think it's a tremendous amount of cost. And when I hear anywhere from $1,000 to $7,500, y'all might think that's expensive because y'all have the experience. But to me, I'm like, oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah, to be prepared, you're going to have to invest money. No different than the flipping people that go sign up for a 3-day seminar, a coaching program, a personal guru, a personal coach, any variation. You're going to invest something in your education. At least in what we're talking about here, the first step would be to get prepared, figure out what the hell you want to build, and go focus on what that's going to cost you. Because until you know that, the previous episode still kind of doesn't matter, because you got to know what you want to do before you turn in your builder's packet. But then again, it also applies to people that are ready to go, because if you're not prepared and you don't know what your costs are, or if you had to change your plan based on the lot size or so on. So again, this is where everything still kind of ties together up until the point of starting the build. Everything still could take alternate steps, but being prepared is knowing all this.
Right. And my man Matt Smith, he has a great question. Is it cheaper to buy a pre-made plan? And I think we talked about this a little bit before, where yes, there are like kind of store-bought plans, but it doesn't matter, because you still have to do a survey, and it has to be adjusted to your lot.
We buy some.
Correct. Yes.
We buy some pre-mades as long as they fit within the known dimensions of a lot we already own. For instance, like you remember that lot I was telling you when we were out by your house somewhere? I was like, some of these really narrow lots. Well, if you know the setbacks and you know all that, maybe you own it, maybe you don't. You can go shop around for plans that are already made that fit within those parameters and save. I don't want to say save some money. Sometimes they're going to be right on par with what you'd spend with a designer. So again, another actionable step in being prepared is designers versus architects. I use designers.
Right.
Bigger plays might need that extra layer there. So
right, and I think that's actually a great question, because I think it depends on the actual lot, right? Because if you do have a designer and not an architect, it will be cheaper, and you can go out and get a plan that will say, hey man, hey, Mr. Designer, Mrs. Designer, will this fit in my lot? Can we make this work out, right? And they'll say, yeah, it will, or no, it won't. So if you kind of have an understanding of whether that's a yes or no, you can get possibly some cheaper cost.
And to save the commenters, to save the audience having to type this out, what's the difference between a designer and an architect?
Licensing and insurance and schooling. To some degree. I mean,
yes.
So is it kind of like?
So it's kind of like what would be a good? It's kind of
like an MD versus whatever the other
like,
MD is.
Here's a nurse and there's a doctor.
Yeah,
right?
or you've got a specialty
like
doctor or something like that. I mean, my personal opinion is just that if you're doing something really big in Highland Park on 3 stories and maybe or maybe a structured basement, yes, an engineer can still do a lot of the things the architect could do, but the architect may also present things that the engineer doesn't think about, like, hey, if we move this here and this here, the engineer's job is to say, okay, yeah, that works, I'll put my insurance on that, his E&O insurance. But the architects just may offer something that some designers don't, in my opinion, and this is, again, this is very bland, because there are some designers that are better than architects. But in my opinion, the designer's job is to achieve your goals. I got a designer I work with, he's great. Forget the cost for a minute. If I tell him what I want, he's going to make it happen. His job isn't to figure out whether that was cost effective or not, or whether, what I want makes sense. If it's going to take a 40-foot beam for some reason, his job is, this is what you wanted, here's your plan. So again, it's figuring out what works for you, being prepared. Talk to them both.
When you start talking to them and kind of, I like to use the word interview, but it's just kind of like getting to know them, seeing how they work, the questions that you ask them, you'll get to know if they're the kind of, no, I'm just a designer. Don't ask me about that. Yeah. You got to go talk to your
So it sounds
Your
like
other
we
guy.
need to have
So-
once we have a little bit more framework of building a house itself, come back and actually have a designer and architect on the show, and really just go back and forth, or maybe even an engineer as well, and be like, okay, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Are there differences and whatnot? And just go down that line. Because
Right.
what I'm hearing is, if I'm an investor, I'm probably going to use a designer more of the time because they're going to do what I want them to do, and probably just get it done. Whereas maybe an architect, it may cost more money and it may take more time, and they may tell me no.
I've seen cases where people have actually gotten ripped off by
The wrong
architects.
designer could screw you up, though.
The wrong designer can screw you up, but I believe also the wrong architect, depending on if they're just wanting to take money from you,
Yeah, the
can
wrong
really
architect could cost a fortune, too.
Right.
It can, and I've
So
seen
again,
that happen.
it's interviewing, just like interviewing subs. You could get one sub to say, man, I could lay out all your electric for this price, and it sounds amazing. You're like, dang. Without thinking, you're just pulling the trigger. Maybe he's never even been a journeyman. He just is fresh off somebody else's crew. So
not
Anyways.
to get out of that rabbit hole and go back into the just being prepared overall. Like, what are some other actionable steps that people can do? Like, we've already discussed in last week about having the builder's packet and submitting that.
So let's start with the first step. The first step, in my opinion, is what I just said a minute ago. No matter which avenue you want to go down, the one she's going to talk about where if you already have land or not versus, the newbie who doesn't, the first step, go invest some money in yourself and get a plan set. Pre-buy one, who cares? Start with just something that's bland and cookie cutter and start to price that out. Tie that in with the other episodes of getting your pricing, knowing your numbers.
So you're saying buying a plan? Kind of like what
buy a
Matt-
plan. Yeah, buy a
like
plan
what Matt
set
was
that's
saying.
pre-made if you
Yeah,
want to make this very easy and simple. After you get that plan set, maybe then go talk to a couple of designers just to interview them about the plan sets you have, rather than have them design something and spend a bunch of money on something you know nothing about. Their jobs are to create a plan set around a lot you already have. But doesn't mean you can't interview them if you already have the plan set. So let's start with that step one. Go get that and invest some time and money into knowing everything about that plan set. So then if something changes, you just go back to your budget, knowing the numbers from last week, and you alter that one line item. That's going to be step one. And I think that applies to her way or mine, whether you have lots or not. But that's going to be step one.
Right. Yeah. For instance, like right now, just a few days ago, I had a phone call with a student, and she wants to do new construction. So I'm telling her, okay, well, what do we got? What kind of lot do we have? She sent me all the lot plans and all that. Okay, have you gone to the zoning, the permitting department? Do you know what the permitting process is? Okay, I mean, if you've never done this, the permitting process is part of your preparing everything that you're doing to get yourself to preparing to build. I mean, to me, the permitting process is really important. If you don't know that, and if you don't know that right now, I suggest that you go find out what that is.
The permitting
Okay.
process?
Yes.
But I mean, if they're investing, hopefully if they're a fix and flipper, they are familiar with permitting. If they're not, they've
It's
skated
similar.
by.
It's similar,
You
but
would
so that
think.
could be step two. They take the plan set they've just invested in, go on up to the city and talk to them, and just ask questions, or ask for a meeting with one of the planners and just say, what do you think about this design? I mean, they're going to tell you whatever, but the point is, put some time into at least just learning that process and say, hey, I pulled permits here before for rehabs. Straight up, what do I need for this new construction? I mean, we've told you last time it's a builder's packet. Have them walk you through it. Start educating yourself in the preparation to build.
What's interesting about that is that follows a theme that we've been talking, I think, last week. When Pam Goodwin was on last week, we were talking about commercial real estate. And one of her things was go see the economic development person in the city talking about commercial real estate. But we've also talked on other shows. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is start having a relationship with your municipalities, your local government, to figure out what you could be doing, what you should be doing, how you should do it, because ultimately that's their job, is to be a servant to you, or a servant to the public per se. So that's interesting you brought that up, just because I see how it ties in to pretty much everything in real estate. And if you're only a wholesaler, you're probably never even thinking about going to talk to city government.
If you're flipping, if you're doing new builds, you gotta get to know your zoning and permitting department. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
There shouldn't be a question about permitting or zoning or anything that you don't really know. I'm not saying know all the rules that they have to know, but at least the process, the time, the cost. Okay, the time is huge. In Hawaii, the time can be very lengthy.
Right.
And which will
Is
really...
it because they just would rather hang out on the beach than work?
No, it's, I don't know. Island time, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know. But, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just going to say.
Chris is like,
no, I mean, it's just moving ahead before I lose all this thinking I'm doing. Is that
don't hurt yourself.
yeah? I mean, invest in it. Go up there to the city. You know, the next step could be very simply time back into last week. Know your numbers. Go ahead and get all these bids. That is, you know, we already discussed that, so I won't go too far into it. But go ahead and get bids. Get bids from everybody. Have a whiteboard. Everything from I talked to this GC, I talked to this regular sub, I talked to this flipping sub of mine. Get every price you can possibly get and familiarize yourself with the terms and the different terms from rehabbing versus new construction. Next step, figure out what kind of insurance you're going to need because it is not the same.
Mm-hmm. And
Call
you
it-
also need insurance for the land. If you just buy land, you still need insurance for that.
Yeah, figure out all that. I'm not going to give legal advice here, but go figure out what kind of insurance you need. You could start with your regular broker. They're probably going to be a little bit expensive. There's some other homework you can do.
What are some questions? Because I know with any kind of service, you need to interview them. What are some quick, real quick questions you can ask an insurance agent of, do they know what the hell they're talking about? Like when it comes to new builds. Like, what are some red flag questions that you can ask them? Does that make sense?
I don't personally have
Hey,
any
do you
red
do new
flag.
construction? Well, absolutely.
Everybody does. It's all going to be who they underwrite it through.
Right.
And what is the most delicate way to say this? Your higher end, more legit insurance companies, they're going to cost more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying legit is a bad thing. I'm saying that there are some insurances out there that skate by the state minimums. Sometimes that's okay for the kind of new construction we do because it really means in certain things we're going to self-insure it because it's just they've got exclusions. And I'm okay with some of those policies. In the event I'm doing something more tricky or more complicated in a different area, I've learned over time there's different types of policies that different agents offer, which is, again, why I'm saying educate yourself. Call a bunch of different agents. Best question I could say, and it's not a red flag question, hey, why don't you walk me through what you're covering and what you're not covering? Better yet, why don't you just explicitly tell me what you don't cover in the event of something bad happens? Well, what do you mean? What if the house burns down? What if my shit gets stolen? What if my shit gets stolen out of the house? Are you going to have does the house have to be locked for you to cover it? Does it not have to be locked? What about pre-locking the house when my lumber gets delivered? If lumber gets stolen, is it on me? What about my windows? What about my water heater? If any of that gets taken out, what am I covered for? What am I not covered for?
Yeah.
Walk me through this
Water.
insurance agent. And if they start waffling about your questions, go on to the next. But still get their price, though.
And we had James Jenkins in on Pain and Gains. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And one of the notes he was saying is I don't know if he was saying it, but in that conversation was just because somebody says something, make sure it's there in writing as well. Because in that situation, you could even throw in the fact of walk me through it, but walk me through it on the paper so I can see it.
Well, one of the things that I do with them is I go page by page, and their pages can be pretty lengthy and long, but I just, okay, what am I, just like what Chris said, what am I covered here? What am I covered there? They sometimes get a little, I don't know. Like,
They don't like to answer certain questions.
They don't like to answer the questions. They don't want to go
'cause
through
they
the
just
whole
want the
document.
business. They don't
They
wanna
just
actually
want you to
work.
sign that thing, okay, and start and get it done. But I think really knowing what's on that document and understanding it. Okay, what does this really mean, this line? Even though you will irritate them by doing so. But that's one of my practice. I always do that.
And for anybody that's watching that already does flipping, who has $1 or $2 million GL policy or something like that, that doesn't mean they can do new construction. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it does not. Just like in the event of this fake hailstorm that just came through, lots of roofers out there will have a certain type of GL policy. But you know what's funny about a certain general liability construction policy is it doesn't actually include roofing. Roofing policies are actually separate from GL. Now, some general policies allow you to do roofing, some don't. I'm just pointing that out as an issue that I used to educate people on in my roofing business, was that ask your roofer plainly to see his policy. Does he have a roofing policy or general, construction policy?
And again, what
and
I
then
learned
ask for the exclusions.
So two things I've learned from this week and this week and last week is one, the biggest thing I learned last week is there's a huge difference between a new build roofer and a re-roofer. I had no clue about that, and I think a lot of people are with me that completely separate. And the second thing is you really don't like sheetrock pricing, and you really don't like fake hailstorms.
Yeah,
that's what I'm learning.
So again, this whole preparing to get built is still some tied on to last week's episode of you've got to know all the ins and outs to be ready to build, and a lot of that comes down to pricing of insurance, knowing the policies, and then also making sure your subs have insurance, because some won't. So you need to also ask your insurance company, am I covered if my sub doesn't have insurance? The typical answer is no, but there are some policies that state, did you exhaust all your steps to prove they had insurance? I had a policy that allowed for that coverage as long as I had them fill out questionnaires, and if they presented me with a policy, albeit fake, but I attempted to do it, then I'm still covered in case they're not covered. So those are all issues too.
That brings a really good question in my head. So for me, I go ahead and cancel that insurance once it's sold. When do you cancel your insurance?
Oh hell, I don't know. You'd have to ask Brittany that question. I don't even pay bills at our company anymore. She handles all that. I'll interview some of them, get them right up to the point where she goes through that process, and then since she's much nicer and more delicate, then she'll handle a lot of that stuff. But I know some policies we've kept in what's it called, perpetual. We just keep them going, and then others, yes, they're per project, but it still doesn't change the coverage of each policy. Whether it's perpetual or not, it's still a matter of telling everybody the next step. Ask for your subs insurance. Some of it will be legit, some of it won't. Sometimes their names won't even be legit. So you want to make sure you've got a policy that covers you in the event they screw something up. But let's face it, most of the time you're not going to report shit. You're not going to file a claim anyway, which goes back to which policy do you want? Do you want the little cheapo state minimum, or do you want the legit broker in a nice office that sells really good policies that cover you for everything? Because I've had thousands of dollars worth of lumber stolen. I'm not going to report that and take the hit. I'm going to eat it and I'm going to move on. And besides the fact it's going to take too long. But every person needs to decide their angle and their plan of action.
So we do need to take a break. But when we come back, I do want to go down just overall what the ins and outs are. Because Daniel brings up a good point about how, this is a new language. There's we got to learn the terms. We got to learn the lingo. Just like with anything in real estate investing, every niche has its own little language. Pretty much any profession, that's what it is learning that new language. Right. So I do want to go down, just keep on having this open conversation about general preparedness before you start the process. Because again, we just spent 5-10 minutes on insurance when it was like, oh yeah, that's
so maybe we can spin that off, and she and
Absolutely.
I can bring an insurance on. We can do that.
Absolutely.
For the sake of this conversation, we can just tell everybody the actionable step is to go interview a bunch of agents, ask them all these questions, hit her up on the comments, and ask what questions
you don't ask Chris the questions.
No, you could ask me. I'm just saying, just
or ask Brittany. That's probably
whatever. Yeah, ask us. Which what would you do? What would you not do? Or what questions ask? But simply just start somewhere and educate yourself. Find out what you don't know by calling these agents, and as soon as they hit you with the question of, oh, I didn't think of that, shit, I'll call you back.
All right.
Figure that out for yourselves as you go through this preparation to build.
Well, and hopefully this show will be a learning curve where figuring out is just necessary, is just watching these shows.
Yeah.
So stick around. We'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about this. Keep the questions, keep the comments flowing. When you do when you do comment, when you do share, you're basically telling internet that this is a worthwhile topic, this is a worthwhile show, and other people need to watch it. Interesting factoid, if you care, like in social media, say Facebook, When Facebook tells the community that we're live, it only tells 4% of our audience. And depending on how that audience reacts will depend on how much it goes. So if you got a notification that we're live and you just kind of like, pfft, well, basically you're telling Facebook that this is not worthwhile. So help us out. Give us a like, give us a comment, share it out. It's all good. But we'll be right back. When we come back, we'll talk more about being prepared in the new construction process.
I'm just hitting the heart button a lot of times.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our show. I'm here with my wonderful friend Ryan and my co-host Chris. Here you go. So now we're going to talk about, let's continue our conversation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
we talked about like insurance. We talked about the permitting. We talked about talking to the city government and, asking questions, getting to know them, learn what you need to learn. Talked about just overall terms and we haven't really got into the terms, but just recognizing that there's new language.
But keep in mind, we're trying to do two things at once as we go through each of these episodes, and that's talk about the rookies who don't know anything to the people that know some, and that's where her and I are going to try to tackle both of these at the same time, such as getting prepared, whereas last week we already talked about the building packet. They go hand in hand,
right?
And they could both be interchangeable, but if you're not prepared, you can't do the freaking building packet anyway.
Well, and honestly, I think whether you're a rookie, whether you're a novice, it doesn't matter. I think that there's still, that's what I love about these shows. What I love about Propelio TV is whether you are super new and know nothing, a lot of it's going to be over your head, but just simply immersing yourself in the topic, you're going to learn stuff. But then there's also people who are straight up experts in it that, oh, that's a good point. I should write that down. Every single time I do a Grant teach me something, he says something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm pretty sure I say something because you can watch the episodes. Him on camera is like, oh, I never thought about that. So these dialogues between experts in the fields is valid. I don't know what that long-winded whatever. Sorry about that. We'll just edit that out. Right, Tommy?
So anyways, so where we left off with getting prepared is,
insurance, make sure you have your insurance. Make sure you understand your insurance and what you are really being covered in your construction in land and in your actual construction build. So.
And knowing your numbers from the previous episode and now getting prepared also lets you know where you can take hits and where you can. I mean, you're going to take...
What do you mean by taking hits?
Well, in the event like your lumber gets stolen, or God help you if your wiring gets stolen after you put it in the house, but it happens to people from time to time in their rehabs. So
are those, is that something that you can be prepared for, or is that just like you build in enough spread that you're like, okay, I'm building in your case, $50,000 worth of profit, but mentally I'm prepared to lose 20 because somebody might lose something. Well, for you, that's not a hit on you because that's the GC, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, it is and it isn't. His contract may or may not actually cover, hey, I'm responsible for all theft, because if they kick the door in, it doesn't matter whether it was locked or not.
In that situation, I just work. I have to work with through the hurdle, right? With the GC. I'm not in something like that. I'm not like, well, man,
it's on the contract.
But somebody needs to file an insurance claim,
right?
Most likely for vandalism and theft. There's going to be a deductible, and depending on the stage of construction you're at and how much shit was damaged, it might make more sense to file the claim. Even if you just keep moving ahead at your own cost and expense, that insurance claim may or may not get paid out 2-3 months down the road. But just again, being prepared means to also know all your what ifs. Get yourself a journal, write all this down, have a page 2 that says continued on page 7, the what if factor, so you can stay linear. But
so and I understand that a whole what if conversation could take 10 hours. what are some of the what ifs that you can actually be prepared for?
For me, it's theft because I build
Okay.
in sometimes subpar areas that are gentrifying, and sometimes not even yet gentrifying.
Well,
but-
I live in one of those
Yeah,
areas. Like
yeah.
I literally been held at gunpoint 8 years ago where I live,
Yeah.
and now $600,000, $800,000 half duplexes are being built
Oh,
and
wow.
sold.
Exactly. So again, knowing
So, but how do you prepare for theft?
Cameras.
lots of deterrence. I mean, we put up tons of fake cameras. There's also services that if you can afford it, that'll charge you $200 to $400 a month that will monitor it with a live camera and a DVR system. Those are nice in certain areas, but then again, you know, add to your budget chain link fencing around the property. I mean, just any deterrent's going to help you. But just walking through this one good time, even if you only do it once for the next 10 houses, just knowing the what ifs will help you be more prepared so you're not totally shocked when you get effed. Because it's going to happen. At one time or another, flipping or new construction, you're going to get screwed somewhere along the way.
Yeah, and just think security. Just that word. What does it mean? Security. Okay. Well, this is my project. This is my my job site. I have to make sure things are secured. How do I do that? Okay. Well, we could put up a fence. We could put up cameras. Some workers. I don't know if this has happened to you, but some workers end up wanting to sleep there after the roof is up and the windows are in, and you know you end up if you go to your job site, you may find a pillow. You're like, where did this pillow come from? Where did this blanket come from? You just think security and think about, okay, how can I make my job site secure?
Well, I know in fix-a-flip world, sometimes it makes sense to offer a homeless guy or somebody, or
Sometimes.
not a vagrant, but you know, somebody who's transitioning places they live. Like, look, hey, you can stay here for free. Just make sure nobody screws up the place.
I've never thought of that. I've had one of my bandit sign guys from our flipping business patrol one of our houses once we were building in South Dallas. Nothing happened, so I don't know whether it was worth it or not, but you know what?
Right.
Worked out. I mean,
I've had some people that have done that actually. That you know they're workers of them, but they.
But how would they do it in
don't have
the
a
new
home.
construction world, though? It's like, I guess you're waiting until there's sheetrock
Well,
up and they can stay in there, or
Well, yeah, after you got your
Something
wall,
up.
your windows are in, all that. You actually have locks on the doors. So, but yeah, somebody that I know that builds. Sometimes when his subcontractors have life issues, sometimes that's what they do. That's how they do that. That's how they secure the job site.
So, as far as being prepared to move forward in the building process, are these just things that you think of, or you probably don't think of it anymore? It's just, you know, it's like a part of the process. Like, hey, I know I'm gonna be putting up cameras. I know I'm gonna be putting up chain link fixing.
it just depends on where you're building, I think.
Right.
Well, and I think the reason why I say think security already, just get in that mindset, think security, because you don't want to wait till something happens. That's the key, right?
Right.
If you're not already thinking about security, it's gonna happen to you. People, they'll steal the plants. I mean, they'll pull those plants and they'll take them. I mean, this stuff happens every day.
Who's they?
Thieves.
People. I mean, a lot of people always ask me, like,
You
"Oh
never
man,
know.
you think it's your subs that do this?"
Yeah.
Actually, no. I've proven before that it's not our sub stealing. When I'm referring to a particular lumber theft, I decided to get really creative and I started knocking on every neighbor's door, asking who saw
neighbors.
what. Finally, I got a lead on a truck. I drove around every city for 2 days finding this truck. I went and talked to let's just say that I found the truck and I found the person. He wasn't at the particular house. And then I went and talked to a local cop who put me in touch with another cop who worked that area. He knew the guy.
How much lumber did he steal?
About $6,000 worth.
Ooh.
I mean, that's a lot of money, but at the
Ouch.
same time, I'm thinking about all this long process.
I just wanted to go.
Money-making activities.
I wanted to go through the experience once of figuring out. You know what? I got time. I want to go see this through. But I was also prepared to
You were in war
talk
mode.
with him.
he was in war mode.
Um,
I think
you
you
know,
and Daniel
Rambo.
Moore are way way close, similar mindset than we may think.
I've got, and of course with our access to certain types of software, I looked the guy up, found out where, all the potential houses he and his family members had. So I was going to go a lot further, but nonetheless, I went through the process of sorting all that out. The point is that after talking to some of the neighbors, next time we built in that same neighborhood, I went ahead and let all the neighbors know, here's my card, here's my number. Next time you hear something crazy at 11 at night, I want you to immediately call me or run outside, shine a flashlight on this person if you're willing. I'll throw you $100 if you get them to leave. Variations of any type of security will help. So not to go down that rabbit hole, but
that's a good idea though. Like throwing a neighbor $100 to motivate somebody to leave.
Well, you can't ask them to go shine a light on somebody and help you because they have no interest and they don't care.
Right.
All they really care about is keeping safe. But if you say, go out there, shine a light, turn your light on, yell, who are you? Just get them to leave. Tell me you got them to leave. I'll give you $100. You could be lying, and I'd rather save 100 than lose 6.
Or pay 100 than lose 6.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, lose.
But I'm just still caught up with the fact that like I could just see in my head Brittany going, "Hey, how's all those flips or how those construction projects?" You're like, I don't know, babe. I'm tracking down my $6,000 worth of labor or lumber thief.
Yeah. Well,
6 weeks later.
So I told you I tracked the guy all the way to a house that he did actually stay at one point. And when I saw the guy in the back of the door, his mom came to the door, very elderly. I did accuse the wrong person, which was a bit embarrassing because I more or less just said, hey, I want my stolen lumber back, and he stole it. She's like, what? He did what? And she was 80-some years old. He was older than me. Long story short, come to find out, he also knew of the truck and the guy's history, and we made friends after that. But he was like, man, you had me running hot. And I was like, well, I'm already at your front door, so that didn't matter. But anyways, I digress.
So basically, don't steal lumber from. Jesse's right here going.
I kind of wish I had someone like him on, helping me out. So I'm not going to go do that.
Just think security all the way around.
Yes.
As you go
insurance, security. What else can we be prepared for?
You really can't be prepared for everything. But go ahead. I mean, what do you?
No, at this point, let's say you got your design, you got your lot, you have insurance, you know what your budget is, right? How much you're gonna spend on the construction. Now it's about, hey, let's get where how am I gonna do this? Where's the money coming from?
Right.
Where's the moolah coming from? How am I gonna pay for this? Right. And
but that's like an entirely
right.
That's a
so
whole
I mean that's
segment.
exactly.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next section on getting funded. But in being prepared, she's right on point. Last episode it was the builder packet. Now it's just being prepared because they go hand in hand. Your builder packet gets approved, then what? Oh shit! I got to go find some money.
Right.
Do you have money? Do you know where you're gonna get it? Is your lot financed? Did you pay cash? Have you even paid for the lot that you put on your plan set or your builder's packet? I mean, all that's being prepared in the sense that if everything is perfect and you are approved and ready to rock and roll, are you prepared? Or are you just going to be like other people, on the internet posting stuff like, shit, I'm going to build a house. I'm going to go do a roof today. It held last night. I'm a roofer.
People do that?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Man, I bought a lot. Really? Let's throw some concrete down.
Yeah.
I mean, you can wing it. You might get lucky as long as the market's good. But like everyone always says in their guru businesses and all the other shit, wait till it downturns and we'll see who's still around that's doing it the right way.
Right.
We talked about like being prepared for theft and the risk of theft. What about other risk factors? What are some other things that you can be, or just is it the general risk of doing it? Like the downturn in the market. I mean, is there ways that you can prepare, or is that just building in a larger spread that, hey, if it turns on you, no big deal, I can still get out? Like,
Great
is
question.
there a way to prepare for risk?
I think so. I think, I always think of, okay, so if I build this home, what are my rental rates? If something goes nuts and I can't sell this house, I have to cash out and I have to hold this for a while and rent it. What can I rent this for, right? Yeah. I always have that. With new construction is either okay, we're going to build and sell, or we're going to build and keep, right? So those are your main 2 exit strategies, okay? So you should always be thinking, if I have to keep this, how much can I rent this for, okay? And also, how will I cash out if I have PML, right? Private money. If I have private money, they usually want their money back plus their interest within that year, or at least that year, right? It's a 1-year term. So you got to think about, okay, what local bank am I working with? What type of funding locally do I have in place for myself to be able to I guess, transition into a long-term type of rental property?
Yeah.
So.
And that just goes back to everything we're saying. Preparedness has so many connotations in the sense that, you know, we could go down rabbit holes like we keep doing, and you could create other episodes on all these for Q&A, but being prepared is also knowing your exit strategies, and that's where she and I are very similar. If you don't know what they are, you're going to be blindsided when they hit you. Again, certain people have heard me talk about this one particular $1 million spec my wife and I did, and it was great. Tons of showings. It just wasn't moving. We were up against the loan coming due. What are we going to do? That was a bank loan, not a private money. That bank didn't want to extend. Now, they probably would have in the event we just pushed the issue, like, F you, take it then. But we didn't want them to take it, so we started just slashing prices until it finally sold. But you know, you just have to know what you're prepared to do to get rid of it. And the smaller houses that we do now, much more safe, I would say. And sometimes we're using our own money, sometimes we're using our private lenders. We know we have different exit strategies for each scenario. So you just have to be prepared and walk through a journal, write it all down. I think write it down because it commits it to your memory of, if the market changes, this is what I'm going to do. If it sits on the market this long and doesn't sell, I'm going to lower the price this many times before I do this. Literally walk it through the thought process, or whatever they say that mind mapping is. Literally go through all those steps and talk about it with somebody other than yourself, even if it's not your business partner, because we all have the uncanny ability to tell ourselves we're great and maybe come out with a best case scenario each time. But sometimes it's a flat out worst case scenario that you have to call up another builder or another person in the business like her or I and say, I got to dump. What can you pay me? Here's my break even. Here's my this. And by me saying that, I'm going to point out 2 instances that I've been, just since we started, you know, working together last year or so, and people started realizing what I do. I've had 2 people contact me privately. Here's where I'm at. Here's this. I'm like, all right, what do you need? Well, I need this much. I quickly just run the numbers backwards. I'm like, you're trying to make money. If you're calling me to dump, don't try to make money. I'm here to get you out. It's no difference than the people that know that we do private lending. I just kind of started that a while back, and I've talked to a few people about advice on that because we used to just do it very, very privately. As we scale that up and offer it on new construction, it's the same thing. I'm not going to be your best and first option because I'm going to underwrite the shit out of new construction. And that, you know, I've talked with Kelly Smith about that a lot. She's helped me because we'll offer some things differently, but long story short, be prepared on your what ifs. If you have a private money, do you need to take them out with hard money? Do you need to try to go to a bank? Do you need to call an investor? Do you need to dump it? Do you need to bring in a partner? Write out every step. My wife and I have done this.
So it sounds like a lot of this conversation is once you kind of build that template of overall preparedness, it's just rinse and repeat for every project.
Yes.
Because if your what ifs are this strategy, it's just listing out the strategies.
It's a blueprint. Unlike flips that are always moving, I like this business more personally because it's very systematic. And one of my business partners in a business that we have, that's kind of what he requires of me is what if this, what is this, what is this? I mean, he didn't get to where he's at for being stupid. So he also makes, and sometimes he'll ask questions like you said, shit, I didn't think of that. Write them all out and have them written down.
But I do like that analogy that it's like in the flipping world, it's very fluid, but in this world, it's very like just static. It's very concrete.
I think so.
Where it's like, just it's rinse and repeat every single time.
I think so.
I think that's a huge
at least as far as having.
I do agree. I mean, I think to an extent of like when you're actually doing your scope of work and a flip, and the workers are in there, that's when it gets to be step 1, step 2, step 3. When stuff starts hitting the fan is when you I don't know, open up a wall and then there's like, oh crap, we have all kinds of stuff behind here. It could be termites, it could be mold, it could be all kinds of things.
Body.
That's when stuff starts like, whoop, how much is this going to cost? And that really starts adding up quickly. With a blink of an eye, you can be from, I don't know,
you could blow your
you
budget.
could blow your budget in no time on a flip. I think, and that's the big difference with new construction is that
it's a little harder to blow the budget, but you can still do it.
But you can, yeah, it depends on. I don't know. I just don't think it's as drastic as when you're flipping.
Because there's always an exit strategy. Say you blow your budget and you are effing break even. Matt Smith said, "Couldn't you owner finance?" Yes. And I just ran the numbers on doing new construction owner finance with a newly really good friend of mine, Mike Powell, Mitch Stevens' partner out of San Antonio. And I went down to his office on Tuesday, spent the whole day running numbers and talking about ideas. Yeah, you can. Now, that's not always the best strategy for new construction, but we ran the numbers and it does work. In a backup strategy, it works. So does renting. I mean, you end up having to leave some money in the deal in some scenarios because we ran the numbers at different price points. But yeah, you can, and that's one good point, that you're turning a negative into a long-term future positive.
Right.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I do want to get into finishing up this topic of overall preparedness, but also like maybe go down the rabbit hole of the general mindset on being prepared, because obviously you have to get your mind right for new construction.
Yeah, let's finish out this on that.
Yeah, so when we come back, we're going to finish up all this conversation about overall preparedness, the mindset. If you have questions, obviously this is a dialogue, this is live, so we're able to go back and forth. So drop them below. If you're liking what you're seeing, again, please heart, like, share, comment. Even if you don't have a question, just say, hey, I'm watching from Dallas. Hey, I'm watching from Vegas. Hey, I'm watching from Michigan. Whether that be a replay or live. It basically, again, you're just telling the internet that this is a worthwhile venture. So anyway, stick around. We'll be right back.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? Lead generating websites. Access to true MLS comps. Off-market lead lists. And deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
And we're back. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. And I know I just said it, but I'll say it again. If you like what you're seeing, if you like what you're reading or hearing or whatever, please let the internet know by rating it, by commenting on it, by liking it, by sharing it. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. Give us a rating. Tell us how we're doing. Quick comment from Daniel before we move on. He was just saying he prefers new construction to remodels because in the long run, because yes, you can hit home runs and remodels, but new construction can be far more consistent. So the consistency factor is huge in new construction. And then what else was I going to talk about? But that's all I was going to say is that. Boom. And then what we got? We got Flor Mazda. I can't say that name. Corpus Christi. People from Grapevine, Dallas, Vegas. Cool. And then Sonia in Phoenix. So, mindset. Let's talk about that and preparing your mindset for the building process.
I'll let her take the lead. I think everybody kind of knows where my mind's at.
Just your hammer?
Bulldozer.
Well, that's why I like new construction, right? Because it is consistent. It is step by step. It is A through Z. For me, that's why I love it. That's why I want to do more of it. I really do.
Is it a song?
So yeah, it is. So I think
Tim McGraw.
in your mindset, always, it's always about keeping a positive mindset. Okay, I'm here. What do I need to do to get from here to here? Okay, and have that know what those steps are, right? And that's what we're giving you. And I think just all around, just think about, okay, here's some land. I'm gonna build something. What does that look like? What are the homes around the neighborhood? What do they look like? And build something that looks kind of like that blends in. Don't overdo it. Okay, that's where you get in trouble with over budgeting. And also don't put something on there that looks like it's from Europe when it shouldn't be, right? Because we're here in Grapevine area. I don't know. So yeah, just go in it with a positive attitude with saying, hey, I know this is new, if you are new to it, but I got the steps. And if you have any questions on detailed stuff, you can always reach out to either Krista and I. And I don't know if that answers your question on mindset. It's more of
that, I think, but that kind of shows where your mindset is at, where it's more systematic, A, B, C, check the box, check the box, check the box. But I think in mindset for me would be more of getting in the right frame of mind to think, okay, this is more of a system. Okay, but just getting over the fear of trying something new, and again, that might be a little too rah-rah, but it is what it is. It's what do you think is holding most people back from going, yes,
Fear.
I want to do new construction?
knowledge, fear.
Knowledge, fear?
What's that old saying? Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that saying.
Well, I mean, that's true. So, like, my thought with this is that,
I like it, though.
yeah, I mean, was it maybe Tyson that said that? I don't, yeah. So, with that being said, I mean, my opinion, and sometimes my wife always says, I operate from the pessimistic side of things, but I want to know what happens if I get screwed. What happens if this goes wrong or south? I don't really like to be overly optimistic going into it. So write the plan out, like I keep saying, journal, flow chart, whatever. Write it down and know what's going to happen when you get punched in the face so you don't freak out.
And then?
Follow your plan.
And then
Do
do
the best
it.
you can.
Uh-huh.
And then just do it. It's
I
not
love
hard.
it how when you say that, you're like,
It's
what?
not hard.
Let's just do it.
If
What are you talking about?
if you're not, what is that?
But if you're too scared, don't do it.
If you're not getting yourself uncomfortable, you're not growing, right? So if you have a real estate business and you're doing flips out there, you have rental portfolios, but you've never done a new construction, that's part of real estate. So even if you end up doing just one, you're like, that's not for me. I think go out there and do it. Why not?
And what's funny is a lot of these conversations is like, just do it. But I think a lot of times it's the fear of, oh, there's so much I don't know. But that's when if you JV with somebody or you get a mentor or something like that.
On that note, let's talk about that for a minute, just because it irritates me. Not in a bad way. Everyone always says, oh, JV with somebody, do this. I agree. But do you know how many people watch this shit and just say, I don't want to give somebody half this or half that. I don't want to.
Right.
Fine then. Get effed. But that may be the best option for you to think about. But no, I'm being serious because I'm speaking from friends of mine who have come to me and asked me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And, I'll answer questions from time to time I don't really offer to partner with people too much because, I don't always play well with others.
Right.
But on that note, like seriously, I mean, as much as you say it, I agree with it. But a lot of people out there watching this and probably just thinking, it's not me. I don't want to partner. I'm just going to learn. I'm going to do it. Whatever, fine. Be prepared and do it. But what you're saying is right. There's a lot of people that are mentally thinking they shouldn't. But guys, maybe you should. Maybe you should find somebody who's been punched in the face.
But if it's something, we actually talked about this yesterday. Again, it's that weird universes align, the great magnet, as Tommy would say, where a lot of these themes kind of culminate together. Because we talked about yesterday about partnerships, and like if you're new to somebody, expect to pay most of your paycheck to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's fine because they're teaching you something. Usually you would have to pay for that knowledge. So in this situation, like if I want to do new construction and I'm coming to you guys, I shouldn't expect a 50-50 cut. I should expect y'all to make the or again, you got to figure out your own splits, but the whole point of that
Depends on
is
who's going to do most of the legwork and
right, but
who's bringing what to the table.
But the point I'm trying to make is a lot of this. I don't want to say anything is easy, but it goes back to the mindset and the fear, and then just like just by doing it. Because a call back to earlier this week with or it might have been last week. No, it was earlier this week with Pam, and she was talking to Shelby about commercial real estate, about how if you just drive and you point out every single day 5 properties that you want to buy where you think would be a good acquisition and you list them out, she's like, I guarantee you by the end of 30 days, you'll have a contract.
Mm-hmm. You have a couple hundred houses leads
well, this is for commercial. But it's the same concept because most people, and I'll promise it'll tie together, it's that mindset of, wait a minute, I could own a retail strip center, or I could have a contract of retail strips. I can't talk.
Retail strips.
Thank you. Say that 3 times fast.
No.
But anyway, but like, I could do that. But that fear of having access, that fear of actually doing it, but there's a big leap. And do you think there's anything other than just like get off your high horse and just do it, or like what are some tips there?
Well, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I'm trying to bust a few people down to reality that may be thinking what I just said. And you know what? Honestly, I was actually one of those people at one time when it first came to raising private money, when I'm like, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? And, I had some really nice people say, just go out and start talking to people. I had another guy say, offer whatever the hell they want just to get used to it. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not giving up that much. I eventually did, and I'm glad I did because I learned from how they think and how they do it. So my point is, from experience, get out of your comfort zone, change your mindset, rah, rah, blah, blah. Just stop your horse shit and go and do.
I think it's also about looking at, okay, well, this individual, they have the experience, they've done it, they have a portfolio. Let me see what value I can bring to them. How can I help them? How can I help their business? What can I do to improve their daily life, their day in this project, so I can be a part of it, so I can learn from that individual, okay, maybe this time around I'm not getting the 100%, oh, yay, I'm getting all this profit, but it's okay because the experience that you are making a reality for yourself by making that choice is going to get you to the reality of, hey, guess what? I'm now doing my own new construction.
Exactly. So as far as we get close to the end here, overall, what are your top 3 takeaways for being prepared to maybe striking ground or whatever the next process is, Mr. Fest? What are your 3 top? Hey,
what
this
do I
is
think there's takeaways?
What the audience out of this whole conversation, other than us just rambling for an hour, what is the 3 biggest takeaways somebody could get out of this episode from your point of view?
From this episode,
just being prepared.
The very first topic I think is still the most. What are we talking about? Steps. The very first one. Go get a plan set and start somewhere. Start with that plan set and go get a bunch of bids and pricing. Know something about your project in order to know the next few steps. Learn that first before you can really go talk to somebody educatedly about what your plans are. The second takeaway, I'll just end with that one, would be if you don't want to go through all that steps, or maybe for some reason you just are too scared to even go that far, then go find somebody that's willing to teach your ass what to do and work out some sort of trade or split. Maybe it means you just simply work for them and you get 10% because you're just going to do nothing but learn. But I don't know, but you're going to have to offer something to the table because we're going to have our own systems, our own people that already work for us. So one of those 2 scenarios. Those are my 2. Those takeaways. Blah, blah, blah.
What are your biggest takeaways about being prepared?
I think security. I think that's huge. We tend to not think about that because we're trying to get all these other things in place. We got to get the design, the lot. We got to know our numbers. We got to get our bids. And this security thing out here, we don't think about it. I think just jot that down if you haven't yet. And it's huge. It can save you money. and it can just keep your job site safe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
If you haven't been robbed yet, you're lucky.
Right.
And I think Jermaine Wilson on YouTube summed up the mindset thing the best. Success is found outside your comfort zone.
It is.
So I think that sums up that much. As far as getting a hold of us or how people can do business with you guys, Jesse, what kind of business are you looking for? How can people get a hold of you and do business with you?
Guys, if you're wanting to get into this, if you need more direction, you can reach me, either PM me, private message me through Facebook, or at Yesenia at bluecoastalhomes.com, and we can get on a free consultation call, just chit chat, just see where you're at, see how I can help you, right, where you're at, to get you to the next step.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Fast.
Call the office or Facebook still for now. I hadn't quite figured out.
Well, what are you looking for? What kind of business?
From everybody out there?
Sure.
Not.
Okay.
I'm just here to get.
You're just here to hang out.
Seriously, no. I haven't really thought about what I need out of anybody. What I could offer to other people. Again, if they have a question, hit me up on Facebook or call the office. I'm not on Insta, Google, Twitter yet, or any of that. So, we'll get to that later. Eventually, like I said, I will publicly roll out some of the new construction lending we're doing right now. It's still pretty private, so I can offer some help there as far as, because again, it's going to force me to underwrite their deal. And we'll offer some terms that aren't quite so common because that's my background. Right now I'm doing it for a few people, completely private, so when I get that money back. But again, I don't really need anything, so I'm just kind of here to help for the time being. So.
Excellent. Well, I like to hear that too. Abundance. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Israel on Facebook, giving you guys love for an amazing show. Again, that kind of feedback is what I like to hear. And I've publicly said before, if we all we were concerned about was views and getting millions and millions of views, every single show would be about how to get started in wholesaling or something. So I know this is kind of niche. So if these guys help you in any ways, drop it in the comments. To me, when I see a singular comment that says somehow an episode or somehow a topic helps somebody and they were able to take action on that, that means more to me than several thousand views or several whatever. Because what that meant was at least one person, the Propelio was able to change and help out. So if that's you, let us know, whether that be on a comment. If you would rather be private, shoot me a DM. I am on Insta, Google. I am on Twitter and all those other things.
So ask him and he'll ask me.
So thank you, John. Great show. So anyway, that's the show for today. We're going to be coming back next week at 11, hopefully, and not 11:10. But it's all good.
It was raining. People in Texas don't know how to drive in the rain.
That is true. So Propelio.com, if you're looking for leads, if you're looking for off-market leads, if you're looking for websites, if you're looking for to be able to pull comps, check out Propelio.com. Daniel, when is the new construction course coming to the academy? Actually, Daniel, this is part of the process. Of this show was a good way to start framing the academy and figure out what conversations can we have here that will help drive the class. So yes, eventually there will be a new construction class. I know Chris is working with Tyler, and hopefully this conversation will help drive that as well. So again, Propelio.com. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel or our podcast or our Facebooks or our Twitters or our Instagrams or our LinkedIns or our Periscopes, I think that's about. Is that it, Tommy? All right, Tommy gave me the thumbs up. So anyway,
I think I'm still on MySpace.
We don't have. Is there a MySpace?
I don't know.
I did sign us up for Pinterest, but I haven't done anything with that. But we'll get there. Anyway, stick around. Just consume our comment. Let us know what you think. We'll be right, or we're not going to be right back. We're out. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashFlow.com, and Lifeonaire.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.